Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. Today, a general Serie A video. You guys know I mainly make content around Inter, the team that owns my heart. But you guys know also I do try to make content around the whole of Serie A / Italian football. But Inter usually keeps me very, very busy. But today I got extra time to look into the tactical state of Serie A. So I'm just going to look at kind of the key patterns and trends that we're seeing in this Serie A. We're 11 match days in to Serie A. Well, this 11th match day is not over yet. I'm shooting this video just before the Napoli-Roma game. But yeah, I want to show you guys my thoughts on what's going on in Serie A at the moment. Of course, I want to know your thoughts about everything that's going on. So make sure you comment down below, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Let's go. So as I said, we're doing this on the 11th match day, but you can already see the Serie A is already starting to align with what we expect in terms of the top 7, really a top 8 at the moment. But because there's an intruder in here, there's an imposter in here, as you could say, a big overperformer, Udinese, who are right here, the Sottil train, which today got stopped finally by Torino. But the 7 top teams, they call them they used to call them the 7 sisters. Now maybe you call them the 7 brothers or whatever you want to call them. You know what those teams are: Napoli, Milan, Lazio, Atalanta, Roma, Inter, and Juventus. Of course, the ones that stand out for underperforming at the moment are Inter and Juventus. Atalanta and Udinese were the overperformers up until this match day. Atalanta also just got beaten by Lazio. You always find it funny that there's similar to like Udinese. Every season there's one team that starts off really well and people start talking about, oh, can they win the title this year? To this season it was Udinese, even talks about Atalanta. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why guys in Italy only 3 teams in the last 2 decades have won the Scudetto. It's been passed around between Milan, Inter, and Juventus. It's been those 3 teams, guys. Go back, look who's won it, and there's a reason for that. Those are the powerhouses of Italian football. Of course, it would be nice to see someone else winning the Scudetto apart from those 3 teams, and this year could be the best year that could happen. But let's see. Going into the playing styles, this is one of the main focuses that I wanted to look into, comparison of the different play styles in the teams in Serie A. And this here by Opta Analyst is a great graph that shows that. So it compares direct speed, so it shows meters per second here on the left side, and then passes per sequence down here. So in this bottom right hand corner, you are a slow and intricate team, and up here you're a very, very direct team. And you can see Hellas Verona, we're gonna say Cioffi, even though Cioffi's been fired and Bocchetti's there. This was the Cioffi team up until now. So that shows to you that these are the teams that are playing longer balls, playing up to the strikers as quickly as possible, not trying to play out from the back probably. And you can see who the teams that are doing that are mostly the teams that are fighting relegation. Hellas Verona, who are struggling this year, Cremonese, Lecce, Empoli, and surprisingly, this is one of the talk. Then if you go over here, you can see Napoli and Inter, the most intricate and slow build-up teams in Serie A. I'm actually surprised with Napoli a little bit because of some of the players that they have were very direct, very pacey. I would have imagined that they would be a little bit more in the middle. But with Inter, it's not surprising at all. Today is not a video about Inter, but Inter are a slow, methodic team because they have no dribblers, they have no pace in the team apart from a couple of players here and there. They are a team that has to rely on build-up and passing and movement. Otherwise, they don't create chances. And of course, no surprise of seeing the likes of Fiorentina, Juventus, and Lazio in there, of course. Now, keep a lookout on this graph. I'm going to go quickly compare the team style comparison graph. This is Serie A. Look at this, yeah, guys. Look at this. And now we're going to go to the Premier League, and you can see. When we talk about, when everyone talks about the different style of the Premier League, what's the big difference between Serie A and Premier League? Look, I'm going to switch between now Serie A, Premier League. That is the difference there. Look how many teams now are playing direct speed, high, fast and direct football. We like to make, I like to make fun. I live here in England and I make fun of, English people like, oh, lump it up to the big striker, 4-4-2, fucking hell, just lump it up, But it's kind of rings true. People, the players in England, the atmosphere, the style of play is much more direct. And look at that, the only team that really counts as kind of slow and intricate in the EPL is Man City. Pep Guardiola, we know, passing around for days style of play. So I thought that gives you like a nice quick snapshot of the big difference between Serie A and Premier League. But in my opinion, things are changing in Serie A. I think we have seen it over the last few years that teams are starting to change their way of playing. And one of those big, proponents of this change of style in Serie A was Gianpiero Gasperini. Gasperini's style of football at Atalanta, since he started, when he came in around 2015-16, when he started to mold his Atalanta in his image. High pressing, man-for-man pressing, zonal marking, aggressive, very, very high defensive line, harakiri or suicidal almost sometimes, the amount of people and players that get into the box. And he in Serie A is kind of creating almost his own coaching tree. He has had a big influence in Serie A in terms of the players, but then those players that turn into coaches now that are influencing the style of play in Serie A. And this great tweet here by Francesco Calcio puts that together. They used to be students of Sacchi, the legendary AC Milan coach, but now they're students of Gasperini. So Hellas Verona just now they fired Cioffi for Bocchetti. Bocchetti, a player who played around different clubs in Italy, but played under Juric, who is obviously the Torino coach, Palladino, Thiago Motta, Bocchetti, all Serie A managers that graduated from the school of Gasperini, all directly or indirectly either were coached or were assistants with Gasperini. So that is, these guys are bringing that different style of football to Serie A. But as the title of the video says, that's not actually what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to focus on the return of pragmatism. There's this graph here made by at Gualano Davide, who shows, but this was very early on in the season. We're talking about September 2nd, but it shows that the different approach that Atalanta have approached this season with. Baricentro Medio Senza Palla talks about the average height of the team without the ball, and the lower it is down here, the lower it means that line is. And look how low Atalanta at this point in early September, after 4 games, were the lowest. And you can see, Udinese, Lecce, but Roma, Mourinho's Roma were really, really low, and also allowing a lot of passes before engaging in the defensive action. So PPDA means passes per defensive action, and Roma were literally letting teams play out completely before even doing any type of press. But surprisingly, Atalanta, who have been one of the highest pressing teams in Serie A, were also doing that. And this graph here by Nick Santolini on Twitter, once again, thank you very much for these great graphs. These show the comparison or the change from last season to this season. And this was a recent graph of the pressing type. So you can see, how on the top right hand corner, Verona are the ones that increased. Fiorentina have really gone high, but you can see that on the bottom, you see Lazio and Roma, the 2 Roman teams, boom, really down in terms of PPDA and the average defense height, because they, Sarri ball in, the Roma makes sense. Mourinho, we know with Mourinho, he's infamous for, whatever, parking the bus, whatever you want to call it. But with Sarri, usually he's known for, high line, high pressing, all that kind of stuff. But he's took, a step back. Sassuolo as well themselves, Dionisi has took a big step back. He's brought down the defensive line much deeper. The pressing is not as intense as it used to be under the Zerbi. Juventus, we know, they weren't that high anyway, but Allegri's brought it even further back. Torino themselves, who were one of the biggest last year, I think they were the best or the most intense pressing team in the whole of Serie A, but Juric has decided to come back a little bit deeper, not be as aggressive. Milan have stayed pretty high. Napoli have stayed pretty high. Atalanta, as you can see, once again, this is a more recent graph now. You can see that step back in PPDA and average defensive height. And the main point of this video is this pragmatism, I think, has paid off. You see Lazio all the way up here, Sarri stepping away. Sarri, Gasperini, known to be, stubborn, ideologue coaches, have stepped away from the usual, the ideas and the concepts that they're usually married to, stepping back a little bit, recognizing that maybe they don't have the guys. At the beginning of the season, I said with Lazio, I'm not convinced with the signing of Romagnoli, because I don't know how he would cope with that kind of high line. but actually he knows that, you know, Romagnoli is not that type of guy, so he's understood that he needs to take things a little bit further back. Gasperini's recognized that as well. Demiral, he isn't made to be defending, you know, 30-40 meters away from his goal. Toloi, with his advancing age, isn't made to be, you know, he's understood that. Roma, we know, you know, Ibanez, Mancini, Smalling, there's plenty of, you know, seasons now that we know these guys have mistakes in them. They need, you know, the support, so they need to be closer to their goal to be actually good defenders. And you know, Inter recently, when things have turned around now, Inzaghi recognizing that obviously, you know, Skriniar, De Vrij, Bastoni just don't have the pace in open spaces. They're not comfortable defending in open spaces. Bring the defense back. And as I said, you know, at the moment that is paying off in terms of the performances on the table in terms of points. Milan and Napoli are the two teams that have continued. You know, they are the most, I would say, European teams in the Serie A in terms of the top anyway. Napoli's, that style of play is also paying off big dividends in Europe, whereas for Milan it didn't last season, it hasn't still this season for now. But they have the players who are able to cope with that. You know, Milan's scouting and recruitment is all based around athletic young players, defenders that can cope and are able to defend in open spaces, be able to press, be intense. And of course, those teams have the individualities once they get up in those high spaces. All the wingers that they have, you know, the Leaos and the Kvaratskhelia of this world, the Osimhens and the Giroud, you know, they've got the guys that are able to bag the goals for these teams at the moment. Closing up with the video with the current difference between non-penalty XGs and the actual goals conceded, and the goalkeeper performances as well shows, you know, a little bit. Again, this screenshot is from the 9th match day, so it's a little bit out of date, but it was showing how, you know, Provedel, Lazio were really, you know, overperforming in terms of the amount of chances they conceded compared to, you know, what they maybe should have statistically conceded already. So we'll probably see Lazio, you know, going back down at some point soon. Juventus as well, Perin and Szczesny really overperforming, and Atalanta, you know, Musso and Sportiello. We're seeing Atalanta, you know, starting to dip now. You see at the bottom, Inter were the team that most punished. You know, they're conceding a lot more than they should be conceding, and this was probably, you know, when Handanovic was still in goal. We know Interisti know that what the issue was there, that Handanovic maybe wasn't, you know, isn't up to scratch anymore. And on the right, the graph shows, you know, Provedel, Perin, Musso, Radu are the keepers that were really performing really well. But we'll see what happens. You know, we'll make this video, we'll have a look at the stats and the pressing numbers and the average defense height numbers at the end of the season to see whether these numbers are just temporary, are the teams just starting a little bit, you know, cautious, and then they'll open up in the second half of the season. And yeah, let me know down in the comments down below, guys. What are you seeing in terms of Serie A trends developing, tactical nuances, tactical patterns that you're seeing this season? I'm interested to find out. You know, we don't get to make a lot of these videos. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm not expecting as many views on this one, but it is what it is. I enjoyed making this video. Hope you guys enjoyed too. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you for the next one. Ciao ragazzi.